On the paid media side, for example, we spend a fair amount of time each year with our media buyer. We have a contract with iHeartMedia. We look at all of the products that we've used in the current year, uh, and we look at effectiveness. We have a program through our media buying whereby we use focus group work for people who are on the receiving end of the messaging, to give us honest feedback on what they're hearing, how well they're understanding our message, and whether our message and their understanding is in keeping with the reducing accidents and fatalities. So this is something we put a time in each year. We consciously try to replace at least one of our outreach programs each year. We want to try something new every year. So, for example, we may try minor league baseball one year. We may try college sports one year. We may try something off the wall, because we want to try something new all of the time. There are some staples where we can get good measurement on impressions. Those are going to be digital media, radio, um, and we do some print, a relatively small amount of print, and most of our print is focused on reaching a very targeted audience for some of our what I would call our dedicated fishers, our outdoor folks. We use that for a more of a targeted, or targeting that group. But at the end of the day, we put a lot of time and discussion and looking back at the effectiveness of the messaging based on the focus group work that I mentioned. We also look at our accident statistics. I should have mentioned that earlier, because something that we want to look at is if we're seeing a particular trend in a particular area, then we have the obligation to put more effort into outreach for that area. So, for example, if we see a particular area where we have a lot of boating under the influence accidents or arrests, we have the opportunity to use very targeted messaging for that area. For example, point of sale at gas stations, ethanol free gas pumps in those areas, convenience stores where you can get marine gas and beer. That's a good place for us to focus our messaging if we're seeing a specific problem. So this is something that we put a lot of effort into year in and year out. As I said, we like to get feedback on how our message is being received, what people are understanding, and we also, as I said, spend a lot of time looking at our accident statistics down to the county level, so that if we need to reach out in a specific area, we're able to do so. Yeah, so on our paid media campaign, I mentioned impressions. That's one of the uh, uh, data feedback area or feedback that we get back from iHeart. But we also spend a lot of time looking at the demographics for each of the markets that we're at. And I'll say advertising because this is really a paid advertising campaign. Here's an example of some of the different products that we use with iHeart. We have digital advertising, web advertising, geo targeting. For example, we target some boat ramps or access points around the state, and we may target them with messages for life jacket wear, a BUI message, or a message encouraging people to take a boating safety course. We also use outdoor advertising, point of sale advertising. Some of this advertising, say, for example, a point of sale or outdoor advertising, there is a call to action in that message to send people back to our website. So we get a chance to see how many people use that message, return to our website in order to get a more specific message. Sometimes that message involves a 15 or 30-second video, and we get a chance to see how many people we converted into viewers for our video message. That's an example right there. I mentioned the impressions, and we've even gone so far as to put a message out there with somebody who we will send out an item, a promotional item to them based on a specific message that we've advertised. So we've done a variety of ways to try to see how effective our messaging is with the person's behavior. I mentioned the geo-targeting at the boat ramp. That's an example of where we may not be able to track how many people received a message on their cell phone when they were before they were launched their boat, and how many of those people actually wore their life jacket while they were on the water. That's one of those areas where, without doing a visual observation, we probably would never know how many people we converted into life jacket wearers for that trip. And social media is also another place where we've tried to steer people to something on our website.
Today, we're going to dive into measuring outreach effectiveness. So let's get started. A quick note on the Water Sports Foundation. The Water Sports Foundation has enjoyed 15 years of managing Coast Guard grant campaigns. To date, we're up to 65 national in scope projects targeting boating and paddling audiences. We employ multi-channel media execution, which includes print, websites, electronic newsletters, social media, television, radio, events, and mobile apps. The overarching goal is to increase awareness of boating safety practices. The big question, how do we prove impact to safety leaders and policymakers? And I found this quote from an industrialist from the 1900s. His name is Dr. W. Edwards Deming, that I thought was pretty appropriate. He said, "In God we trust, all others must bring data." And that's, I think, an important point for this particular presentation, because we really want to know, why does this matter to RBS? It supports funding decisions. It informs national safety strategies, demonstrates measurable behavior change, and project effectiveness. And long before project monitoring, as we know it today, was required, the Water Sports Foundation developed its outreach projects using boating media and data-driven results. As an element of signed media contracts, the Water Sports Foundation requires the media provider to include quarterly analytic reports and post-campaign follow-up attitudes and behavior surveys. Since our very first project, the Water Sports Foundation's outreach campaigns required both quantitative and qualitative measurements of effectiveness. Quantitative measurement includes measuring objective data such as media impressions, video views, open rates, Nielsen ratings, social media audience, likes, shares, and comments. Quantitative measurement is the easy one because in today's digital world, a campaign's reach and engagement are measured by highly sophisticated software programs such as Google Analytics, Sprout Social, and so many others. They're designed to track everything we do online and produce highly specialized reports on that activity. So in addition to Google Analytics and Sprout Social, our media providers use a wide variety of social analytic tools, including Google Ad Manager, Meta Platform, Meta Business Suite, SEMrush, Ahrefs, Ometa, which is for email marketing, and even YouTube. We use e-newsletter campaigns to push outreach to boating enthusiasts, primarily through our media partners. Each media partner, regardless of whether it's a boating magazine or a paddling magazine or whomever it might be, generally has an e-newsletter list that they curate, and then they send messages to, their own messages to, and we just buy our way into those. It's you can purchase a way to get in. We used to do a lot with advertising in those newsletters. Since Jeff came on board back in 2016, he's converted everything into sponsored content, which is article based. And what we'll do is we'll take an article that might be on something generic about how to dock a boat, perhaps. And inside the article, we'll include messages such as don't forget to wear your life jacket and be mindful of changing weather and don't forget to use your ecos. But the article's intent is to get people to click on it because based on its subject matter not being boating safety. And we push these out through newsletters campaign as a promotion. It's just one way of promotion. We also have them on websites and in other methods. But the idea is to put this in someone's inbox, and when they go about consuming their normal boating content, there it is, right in the middle of a boating magazine newsletter. And then to track how these campaigns are effective. So on the email news campaigns, our media providers have sophisticated software to track exactly how those newsletters are performing, which items in the newsletters are being clicked on, and what part of the content that the consumers are reading. So in my publishing career, I've seen the change from what used to be the only way people got information, which was through print or TV or some other kind of broad-based media, transition when the internet came about to armchair internet publishers that took over. And what we saw was a decline in print subscriptions, and immediately folks started getting their information off of the internet. Now that has only progressed through the 1990s and in the early 2000s to social media now taking over, where the internet used to be that source, that go-to source. It's now social media that people go to for their information. And as a result, we've transitioned our campaigns similarly. Now we still do a little bit of print because print still has a place in the outreach world, and a lot of folks still like print, and it has staying power, and there's a lot of good reasons for print, but it's a small piece of the outreach that we do. The majority of what we put out is in digital format on the internet or in newsletters or social media. At the encouragement of our board of directors, for now, like the third or fourth year, we have had a thing included in our outreach projects called Wake Responsibly. And Wake Responsibly is an outreach campaign that the WSIA has that includes the tenets of being a courteous boater, which are 200 feet, keep your music at a normal level, and don't do repetitive passes in the same place because you're just going to piss the neighbors off. So we are producing outreach materials right now that will be released soon to support the Wake Responsibly campaign. I don't want to get into talking too much about the laws and the rules because I might trip up on that and get something wrong. But I can talk about the fact that I can do what you asked, the Water Sports Foundation and the WSIA relationship, and then how the WSF emerged to become the educational division of the WSIA, and that now we are, producing outreach projects to support the WSIA's Wake Responsibly campaign. The Water Sports Foundation, as a member of the larger RBS community, is a huge supporter of the Safe Boating campaign, and we like to use the Wear It logo in our outreach materials because it's just the perfect logo for trying to get the message across to people that they need to wear their life jacket. Well, we support all recreational boating safety campaigns, including Operation Dry Water, which is going to run over the 4th of July weekend, but we support the CETO Foundation's Sober Skipper campaign, and we also include the Wear It logos in our materials. We just think it's important for us all to be a good neighbor in this space. When online content produces likes, shares, and comments, it shows how the audience is engaged with the content. The holy grail for a content producer is to have their content go viral, a term I'm sure everyone's familiar with. A successful viral marketing campaign is a strategy that drives rapid, organic, and widespread sharing of brand content, typically through social media, achieving massive visibility and high emotional impact. It leverages emotional triggers like joy or surprise and social currency, encouraging users to voluntarily pass along content, often reaching millions of viewers. Viral is a moment in time when critical mass is achieved. And as more and more viewers comment, the discussion grows to a self-educating moment as responders continually add more information, constantly correcting previous commenters. Another valuable measurement is campaign cost efficiency, which in the media business is typically measured by cost per thousand, or abbreviated as CPM. In media procurement, the most common CPM measurement is the CPM of gross media impressions. Measuring the cost to generate 1,000 impressions allows analysts to compare the cost efficiency of non-alike campaigns. CPM can be applied to any metric, but as the funnel narrows through engagement towards impact, the cost per thousand increases. Why CPM matters? Well, it ensures efficient use of funding. It's a cost per thousand is a common denominator that gives analysts a way to measure things that are not alike. Post-campaign surveys are an effective way to measure an audience's change in attitude or behavior regarding boating safety. The concept is simple. Over a period of time, radiate safety messages to a specific audience, such as those who subscribe to regular boating content, and at the end of the period, survey the audience for message retention and actions taken as a result of consuming the content. Public health campaigns have used this method for decades, and recreational boating safety, whose goal is to save lives and reduce injuries, is essentially a public health campaign. During procurement, the Watersports Foundation negotiates media provider proposals based on their audience quality and media impressions cost per thousand. Months later, in its conclusive reports, the Watersports Foundation includes both objective quantitative data from media providers' analytics software and subjective qualitative data from post-campaign audience surveys in combination with post-campaign cost per thousand analysis measuring cost effectiveness. Analyzing the combination of objective and subjective data with CPM analysis provides campaign managers with the outputs and outcomes necessary to formulate project conclusions. In a final thought, I'd like to just state that in 2024, the Coast Guard reported the fewest boating fatalities since record keeping began in the 1970s. That was 556. We're certain that there are hundreds of individuals enjoying the company of their families today who, without the Watersports Foundation and all of recreational boating safety's efforts, might not be here today. On behalf of the entire WSF team, I'd like to thank the U.S. Coast Guard for allowing the Watersports Foundation to perform this extremely rewarding, life-saving work for our 15th season. And as a final thought, I'll offer another quote from Dr. Fleming, the 1900s industrialist, who humorously said, "Without data, you're just talking to another person with an opinion." Thank you for taking time to listen today.